Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Angry Dave podcast. I'm your host, Angry Dave, and this is our first episode. And by our, I mean my first episode. So, why a podcast and why am I doing it? You know, I'm like listening to podcasts, but I am kind of tired of hearing about politics and your crazy conspiracy theories and all the apologies that you make for like living life and being a normal human being and all the fucking fakeness that goes around out there and the moral outrage, um, you know, having an opinion just because somebody else told you to have one. I'm just tired of that. I really don't want that in my life anymore. Kind of don't really watch the news all that much anymore because I'm just tired of all of that. I want to just have normal conversations with regular people and, just like you would in a bar or one on one if you had a little bit too much to drink and drop a bunch of truth bombs to one another like you would in a quiet, normal conversation without a big audience. So that's what I'm looking for. I also want to make it kind of fun, so I'm going to ask everybody 20 questions at the end. Once we get their life story, get their bent on uh, life, and those 20 questions, some will be normal run of the mill questions, much like Behind the Actor Studio. Tip of the hat to James Lipton, rest in peace, Rip. I love Behind the Actor Studio, so I like those types of questions. But I also want to put a little bend on it, and I'm going to ask some embarrassing questions and see where that goes, and hopefully we'll have some fun along the way. So my first guest is going to be me. I'm going to take you through a little bit of my life story, and then I'm going to ask you, or I'm going to ask myself a bunch of those same questions that I'm going to ask some of my other guests. And I'll probably go a little bit more than 20 because I have a list of them here, vary the list throughout. And maybe you guys over time can give me some questions you think I should ask people, whether they're normal or introspective or whether they're just funny and just to have a good time. Here we go. I'll start from the beginning. You know, I'm born in 1976, March. I'm coming up here on my 47th birthday. I'm born and raised in Philadelphia. My parents were 19 years old when I was born. I'm pretty certain that in the summer of 1975, I was conceived in a dirt basement in South Philly. So that's the beginning of my story. Born amongst the dirt by two working class slash poor teenagers. And as you might think it would have went, it kind of went that way. Childhood was relatively good. I mean, my parents certainly loved me. I had a loving family. I have a sister that's 6 years younger than me, but we struggled a lot. My parents were obviously very young. They relied heavily on my grandmother and grandfather, my dad's parents, and they couldn't really rely on my other grandmother because she still had other kids to raise. My first memory, well, my first memory actually is my uncle Eddie came up into the bathroom to use the bathroom at my grandparents' house, and he caught me in the tub, and I was shit in the tub, all in the tub. And he was appalled and made a big scene about it. Went down and told my dad, and sitting in the shitty tub, and my dad came up to reprimand me and make me clean it and tell me that I should never shit in the tub again. I mean, it's a fair point. You really shouldn't shit in the tub, but I was four, and not sure I meant it. And it was kind of a weird conversation to have. And I remember it. Um, the worst memory about in childhood is really that same Uncle Eddie. When I was 8 years old, he committed suicide in my basement, and that event, when I look back, is really a seminal kind of a thing. I mean, I still can hear my grandmother's screams from that day, for better or worse, and it changed the family dynamic in a many ways. I mean, I grew up real fast. My dad found my uncle taking his last breaths in the basement. So I'm not sure he ever really recovered from that. And from really that moment on, I grew up really, really fast and sort of was like on my own. I came from a big Italian slash Irish Catholic family. My grandparents on my dad's side had what, 5 or 6 kids, and my mother's side had seven. And my mom was the oldest on her side, and my dad was the second oldest. I was the first grandchild, and in many ways, I was like the littlest brother of both clans. And then as the littlest brother with teenage parents, I sort of was on my own in a lot of ways. Running around in South Philly back in the 80s, was like the youngest kid in the neighborhood. So we fought a lot, and I learned pretty early on that having the ability to switch my temper to 100% on a dime and become the craziest lunatic around was beneficial in the street. I mean, it just was. It's certainly certainly not very beneficial for relationships or job stability, but that's kind of where I think I get my Angry Dave moniker and where that sort of came from. I mean, the actual Angry Dave moniker came from a softball game that I had in one of the first law firm I ever worked for. I'm a lawyer by trade. I did that for more than 20 years. I'm at a law firm softball game. I'm 24 or 25 years old, and I flipped out at some dude on the other team. I forget what it was for, but I know that he was acting like an asshole. Everybody thought he was acting like an asshole, but Angry Dave came out and flipped at him, cursed at him. I probably threatened his life and the life of his mother. And one of the partners was there. Great idea to flip out in front of a fucking partner, but he apparently got a kick out of it. Ben, if you're out there listening, shout out to you. Ben says to me, "Hey, buddy, you're a little angry, huh? Little angry Dave." And then, some of my friends got a hold of that, and it's sort of stuck ever since. I hung out in the corner a lot in South Philly, like during my childhood. I kind of really was more in trouble and more at risk probably up until 13 or 14 years old than I was later. I sort of had a little bit of a wake up call. There was one time I was, hanging out on the corner with all older kids. I always hung out with the older kids. And this new kid in the neighborhood, he was a bad kid. He was only maybe like 2 years older than me. And he stole one of our friends' boom box. Shout out to Jimmy out there. I don't really want to give anybody's last names, but Jimmy got his boombox back, but apparently we all decided that we needed to show this kid and like make a statement that, you can't do that to us. So everybody decided that, I was going to fight the kid because I was the closest in age. I think in a lot of ways in that group of friends, I was like the Hoist Gracie of the group, the littlest guy, and they decided to put me up there against a lot of these kids because maybe to show them, fuck, if that little guy can beat you up, God forbid if the rest of them, I don't know if that was the case, but or if I was just too fucking stupid to say no. But in any event, we decided to go find where this kid is hanging out. We go to the neighborhood. It's like at a dead end street right near 7th and Bigler Park in South Philly, or 7th and Packer, sorry. 40 fucking 50 dudes come out of that park. And yeah, that didn't go so well. And Jimmy, the rest of us got away. Jimmy wound up getting stabbed 7 times in the back. Thank God he lived. Shout out to Jimmy for taking those stab wounds because I'm not sure that the 12 or however the fuck old I was, 13 years old, me would have been able to take those stab wounds. We had to go to court for that. And I, I threw up at court. I was so fucking scared. And shout out to Matt for testifying on all our behalves and not making me have to go through that shit. But that was like a kind of a wake up call. I had some other shit that happened. I get jumped and fights and all kind of shit that you'll probably come out over time if this podcast continues. But that kind of gave me a wake up call. I played some sports through grade school and middle school, but I really, once I got to high school, I sort of, and after that event, I sort of calmed down a little bit and engrossed myself in baseball. I was looking at some of our report cards a few months back with my two kids, and I was a pretty fucking horrific student. I used to miss a bunch of school, and I don't know, I passed, but that's about it. Even in high school, I kind of like just skated by like a C plus student. But baseball was really pretty key for me because it kept me at least in school enough and engaged enough that I wanted to stay there and I graduate, stay out of trouble enough so I could play ball. And I mean, there was plenty of times I was still hanging on the corner even through high school or drinking 40s and that type of shit. But I basically stayed out of trouble. I never got too deep into any of that stuff. And then, I went off to college in 1994 to Westchester University, which is only about 45 minutes outside of Philadelphia. Westchester was not very far away, but for me, it was like a I mean, it could have been Australia. It could have been, across the world because it was just a whole new experience for me, and it just kind of opened the world for me. I would like to think that I had something in me that made me get out of that environment because a lot of the kids that I grew up with struggled. Pretty sure that I'm the only person with, a law degree or advanced degree in that neighborhood. Many of the kids are not with us anymore. A lot of drug addiction, people ending up in jail, dead end jobs, those types of things. And it was a poor neighborhood, and we suffered from those types of things. 90s, there was a lot of crack and heroin, pills, cocaine wasn't really a huge thing where we were, but a lot of pills, a lot of smoking weed, a lot of standing on a corner and not progressing with your life. But Westchester got me the ability to get out of there. And I look back on it now, and I think if my dad was a highly successful lawyer, businessman, I probably would have been an out of work mechanic. I mean, I'm a contrarian by nature. And despite that, I like to think that there was something in me that made me special, but I'm not sure about that. It's probably more has to do with my defiant personality than anything, and sort of got lucky. I get to Westchester, and I pretty quickly meet Laura. Laura and I are dating by the time that November of that, well, my freshman year, and she's been my only adult girlfriend, and we really just became a team and grew up together, graduated, eventually moved back to Philadelphia, had kids, and all that great stuff. It's really a fucking adorable love story, and we still mostly like each other. I have my moments. She wanted to kill me yesterday because I was a miserable cunt and kind of a dick to my kids for little reason. I have those moments still. I am an imperfect man. I try to be better. What makes her great for me is that she holds me accountable for my shit and still hugs me. I need a hug every once in a while. Westchester, I was kind of doing the first year that I was there, I was kind of doing the same shit that I did in high school, just kind of skating by. I don't know. I had an epiphany. I think I finished the first year with like a 2.8 C plus average. Finally, I just had an epiphany. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm here. I'm paying for this shit. May as well do pretty good. And I got it. I kind of got it together. I certainly got it together enough to get into law school. Westchester was a good place. We had a lot of fun together. Laura and I were like just fucking inseparable. I mean, at one point we had a picture on the front page of the catalog, the Westchester like course catalog. We were like a goddamn staple in that fucking town. And there was no Laura without Dave or Dave without Laura. Most of our college friends didn't even know that, we existed without each other. After college, we moved back to Philly. We got married. We finished college in 1998. We hung around the Westchester for a year. I flipped pizzas. Laura worked in a parking lot, and then we got married and we moved into Philly. She went back to grad school. I went to law school. Law school for me, I kind of had a lot of fun in law school. Again, I didn't probably do as well as I could have because in my brain at the time, I made it. I fucking made it to law school. Nobody thought I was going to finish high school for Christ's sake, and I made it there. I thought, oh well, I'll do just well enough, and I kind of did. I think I had like a B average. I did have a B average, a little bit over a B average. And anybody that's going to law school, don't just skate by, especially your first year. That's my advice to you. But I did, and whatever. I got a job out, and I wasn't making fucking any money at first. I worked in city government, then for a small plaintiffs firm, and then I did workers' comp defense forever. I got tired of really practicing law and that grind that every fucking day is the same goddamn thing over and over again. Billable hours, and the only thing that you get really at the end of the month when you bill your hours is more billable hours for the next month. And it's just a grind and a hamster wheel kind of a thing. And I was kind of done with that for 10 years in. I thought I got pretty good at my job, and then it sort of became monotonous to me. And I had been looking for ways out. I found ways out. I worked for an insurance company for a year. The risk management counsel for the city for a couple of years. Went back to practice. And pandemic came. People were calling me at my house at 3 o'clock in the morning because all they had was just my cell phone number and nobody was in the office. One too many of those calls, one too many of telling somebody I was going to fucking bite their neck off if they ever talked to me like that again or ever threatened me again. So, I knew that Angry Dave was coming back around, so it was time to get out. So, about 2 years ago, I got out for good, and I'm doing like risk management locally. I won't tell you the company because I'm probably going to say some crazy shit on this podcast. I don't want to get fired. I just still do need that job. So that's sort of like work life, and that's where I am there. When we got back to the city, we graduated. She graduated grad school. I graduated law school 2002. We hung around for a while, had some fucking fun. We didn't have much money, but we had some fun and eventually bought a house. And then Jacob came in 2006. He is 16 now. Jacob Bamboo. Bamboo is his nickname, his judo nickname. I have no fucking idea why Bamboo is his nickname, but it is, and it's hysterical, so he keeps it. Then Nicholas is 10 years old, and his nickname is Noodles, Nicky Noodles. They're both really good kids. Jacob and I had a little bit of a tiff yesterday. We worked it out. I apologize for my part. He had me to death for his part and sort of apologized. We hugged and shit. Everything's good. Well, that's sort of it. Like what's next for me is, I'm tired of sort of being afraid of shit. I spent most of my adult life trying to make sure that I create a stable environment for my family because I really didn't have that financial stability and that home stability. I didn't want there to be problems in the household and worries about money or transportation or housing. And, it was very important for me to be that provider because my dad really was never that. And I couldn't be my dad, right, in that way. So I spent the first, I guess, 30 years, 25 years trying to make that happen. And I pretty much succeeded. I mean, nothing's perfect, but we're doing pretty good. We love each other. We talk it out most of the time. I still have my moments of fits of rage. I've never, I'm not a, never hit anybody, but my forked tongue is incredible. I am great at insulting people. I'm just trying to be a better person generally, trying to work on myself as much as I can and be accountable for who I am. Sometimes I fail at that. Most of the time, I'm doing okay, and my family's doing okay, and I love them, and we have a nice, safe place here. So now, moving forward, I want to focus on the shit that I never did. Just say fuck it. I want to do a podcast. Why? Because I want to. I want to talk to people. I like to hear my fucking voice. So this is what we're doing. I want to curse and I want to say what I think. And part of what I'll do here is I'll ask some questions about people and their memories and their relationships and those types of things. So let's start with that. Best memories of my childhood have to be those parties that my grandparents used to throw. So they had a really small house on Marshall Street in South Philly, with like 750 square feet. But they would have like these huge parties for like 4th of July, New Year's Eve. They would pack 40, 50 people in the house. They would be awesome. We would have a great time. Everybody get way too drunk. But they wouldn't have to go anywhere because everybody lived in the fucking neighborhood. So I love those parties. I still throw them today. I'm a party person. I love throwing a party, and it really has everything to do with those experiences. They used to drink VO, like Canadian whiskey, and I guess I drink a few Canadian whiskeys myself, the Crown Royal, and not sure really why I do that, except for that I get easily persuaded. But Canadian whiskey is fucking awful. Canada, you're a nice country, but your whiskey is shitty. I guess maybe that was kind of the point for my family is like maybe that, it was awful and I don't know. But I have no other reason why they would have liked Canadian fucking VO particularly. 'Cause it was shitty. And then we used to shoot off guns on New Year's Eve. Like I was like 10 years old, fucking firing a 9 millimeter in the air. That same 9 millimeter, I actually went up killing my grandmother's dog when I was 16, a Shih Tzu. I was showing gun safety. I shot the Shih Tzu through the fucking door. There's a long story about that, but the short version is the Shih Tzu's buried. My buddy that I was showing the gun to, he's safe. But the Shih Tzu had a companion dog. He was a Shar Pei. Snoopy was his name. Snoopy when the Shih Tzu Zip his name, and Zip was laying there twitching with a fucking bullet in his head. Snoop pissed him, fucking lifted his leg, pissed him. At the time I start crying, like, oh, he's marking his territory, he's losing his buddy. I'm pretty sure that he was probably just telling him good riddance. That little fucking Shih Tzu used to torture Snoop, and Snoop lived like another like 5, 6 fucking years, and he was already old. So I'm pretty sure he was like, "Fuck you, dude. I'm done with you." So Anyway, guns. Guns are have an interesting part in my life. Shotguns to the chest. My uncle, fucking 9 millimeters to heads of dogs. In any event, 9 millimeters in air. I don't. That's some weird shit. All right, I want to move on from that because that's fucking morbid. So some of the questions I would ask some other people is anything that I would change about my childhood. I don't know, man. Like I don't think like that. I don't want to change anything. I wouldn't change my parents, or the way we live because it would mean that I would be where I am. I'm perfectly happy with where I am. So no, I won't change anything. It's like the butterfly effect. You change one thing, you don't know if a million things change. The whole course of your life could change it. I'm content with where I am and who I am, so I'm okay. Most important people in my life, I could say like the most important or most impactful relationships are first. I guess the most important person in my life was probably the first most important person was probably my grandmother, Cass, my dad's mom. Without her, we don't survive. Without my paternal grandparents, we would have probably been out in the street. My dad, I love him and I miss him, but he was, my mom was the mule, right? My mom got shit done. She worked 2 jobs sometimes. She had 2 kids. She went to school and got a associate's degree so she could better her career. My dad was chronically unemployed, and we really leaned on his parents to sometimes legitimately put food on the table. Like we would have fucking nothing in the refrigerator, and we have to go to my grandparents' house, and we lost houses, had to go live with people, and it was a really struggle and a lot of anxiety growing up, being the oldest son and seeing it all. And it, my grandmother was always the place where I could go and hide and be safe, no matter what was going on, what fight was going on, what fucking nonsense we had to deal with. How many creditors were calling the house. I could always go there and just fall in her arms and just she would hug. And I miss those fucking hugs, man. I miss those hugs. I'm a father now. I had a complicated relationship with my father. We were very close in a lot of ways, but I did have a lot of resentment for him because he just let us linger. He let us suffer, and I could never understand it. As a dad now, there are some things that I forgive, some things that I understand more. I understand his impatience more, and some of the things that he said, some of the C-minus moments. Everybody has those moments despite their best efforts. I still don't understand. I still can't comprehend how he could have, sat there and I do understand now that he was chronically depressed, undiagnosed chronic depression. I'm sure it had a lot to do with watching his brother die in his hands, some of the other stuff, but you had shit to do, man. You had shit to do and you let your life pass you by. And I'm very sad about, it's sad about that. I regret that for him. He passed away at 55 years old. He had lung cancer. He knew he had lung cancer for just a few months and he died really quickly. The one thing that I'm really very happy about or proud of is that I had a chance to write to my father before he passed away and really, say a lot of the good shit that I wanted to say and sort of set the record straight between us. One time I had given him a computer and he looked through the computer. He was supposed to like fix it for me. And he looked through the computer and found a hidden document, which was basically my diary, and saw a bunch of shit in there that he probably didn't want to see. It was a diary, and I said it all, and some of it was not kind, but it was at least nice to sort of set the record straight before he passed. I mean, it's helpful for me. I think it was helpful for him. He was a loving dude, and he would do anything for anybody. He was a great friend, but he just couldn't get out of his own head and out of his own way, past his own ego. I was 15 years old. We were losing our house. Foreclosure was like sort of becoming finalized, and they could have got out of it, but he didn't have a job. My mom was struggling. I'm sitting at the kitchen table with him one day, and I just said, Dad, any job, anything. Like, can you just go get something? McDonald's, anything would fucking help. He just told me flat out, David, I can't do that. I can't do that. His ego wouldn't let him do it. He cried, and he just was debilitated by it. And it's very sad. But I still miss him. Listen, there's some shit I don't miss. I don't miss talking to politics about him, but I miss him. I miss his love. I miss those long talks that we would have when I was traveling for work in the car. I do wish I could have seen him with my sons and how they would have interacted. I think he probably would have probably been a pretty great grandfather. I know me and his dad had a pretty good relationship, and his dad was kind of rough on all those kids, and I didn't really see that as much. I did see some of it, but I didn't see it as much. So my bet is he would have been a great grandfather. What's it like to be with my sibling? My sister and I, unfortunately, don't have that great of a relationship. We don't argue or fight or anything. She lives across the country. She moved across the country when she was young. And, I reach out to her every once in a while. We talk every once in a while, but we really don't have much of a relationship. I wish we did. I have two nieces that, I really wish I had a better relationship with. I don't know how to fix that. I don't know that there's anything that either one of us could do. I guess life has just gotten in the way. But I do love her. There's nothing I would do anything for her. I could tell you as a kid, I tried to be her father, and that wasn't good. I was a shitty brother. I really was. I was a shitty teenage brother. I tried to be like that force and like be like a tough guy to her. And that is a regret that I have that I will always have. I tell my kids all the time, you have each other. We won't be here forever. You'll always have each other. Fucking be nice to each other. Be each other's support. To my older son, I tell him all the time that kid worships you. Don't take advantage of that. I didn't have that advice. I didn't have it. I wish I did. What's it like being my parent? I don't know. I think my mom would tell you I'm a good son. I love her. I took care of her for a little bit when my dad passed away. I would do anything for her. I invite her to everything. I don't know. I'm a pretty good son, I think. Me and my dad, we really talked about that. A complicated relationship, butted heads, man. We were two fucking rams at times. And, later in my life, when I start getting settled and had my law degree, and, it was sort of like sowing my oats. I probably overran him with my bullheadedness a little bit. So I think it was probably a tough relationship for him. But we certainly, we loved hard and fought hard. How about what's it like to be my wife? I think I love like my father. I think I'm an emotional motherfucker, and I can be a pain in the ass that way. I don't ask for all that much. I do go to work every day and provide, and I tell her I love her almost every day, and I pay attention to her and make sure that we spend time together. I think that I'm probably a better puppy dog than anything. I don't know how great I am as a husband. I do know that I love my wife, and I try very hard to love her, and that I'm an emotional fucking idiot sometimes and lose my temper. I certainly don't scream and holler very often, but I get mad at fucking dumb shit. She puts me in my place. I mean, the greatest thing that has really ever happened to me is Laura, because I don't get out of college with her. I don't get to law school without her. I mean, she called me out on my bullshit at 18 years old when I needed it. She was like that stabilizing force for me forever. But I do think I am a good puppy dog to her. How about me as a father? What do I think about me as a father? Again, I think my kids know. that I would do anything for them, that I would die for them if somebody tried to hurt them, that I provide, and that I love them. They can come to me for anything. I do know that they know that, but they are two boys and they are sometimes afraid of their dad. So, I don't know. Part of me thinks that that I don't want that, but part of me also thinks that's a little bit healthy to be afraid of your dad, to have somebody that you fear, that it's a little bit healthy once in a while to have a standard that you don't want to cross. I don't know. I was afraid of my dad for a while, but then went away when I was 16 or 17 years old. When I got tired of a lot of that disappointment. But yeah, no, I mean, we make jokes together. We spend a lot of time together. We do judo together. I think they mostly like me. I think that they think I'm a little fucking crazy and a little Neanderthal, a little silly sometimes. But that's healthy, and I can deal with it. I do like the fact that they're getting old enough where they do make fun of me a little bit, and that makes me kind of happy. About being my friend, how was that? I think my friends would say that I'm loyal, that they can count on me if they need me. I think my friends would tell you that I'm a fucking ball buster and that I will make fun of them incessantly about even awful shit that happens to them because I'm terrible, terrible, terrible at crying, and I try to make a joke about everything. So I'm probably a little bit too much on that end. I have a morbid sense of humor, but ultimately, I think that I'm a very good friend. I think I get that from my dad and my grandfather. They were probably better friends than they were family people. But yeah, what do I think my best quality is? I think it is my ability to have a big heart, to love bigly. I love bigly. I do. And if I love you, you're your family, regardless of bloodlines or anything like that. My worst quality is my temper and easily annoyed. Hence the Angry Dave. And I do, although it does not happen rarely that often, I have been known to lose my shit every once in a while. And, when I do, you're not going to know it because I go 0 to 100 very quickly. And I don't really voice annoyance until I'm at a level that is past the ability to calm myself down. I have gotten 1,000 times better at it, but it still exists. Fuck, it happened twice in the last week after probably not happened for a couple of years, but it happens. So that's it. That's where I am. So this is the time in the podcast where I would ask 20 questions of my guests. I'm gonna start. What am I most proud of? I'm most proud of the environment that I've created for my kids. The fact that we have a stable life, stable house. I didn't have that. My wife didn't have that. We have provided that for our kids. I'm pretty proud of that. Pretty proud that they never had to go through any of that heartache over money and arguments over that kind of stuff. They never had a bill collector call them. They have to find a way to get them off the phone. So I'm pretty proud of that. Number two, do I have any person in my life who would bury a body for me without asking? 100% I do. And hopefully he'll be the second guest on this podcast, meaning me, the first guest in the second episode. I call him Motown Mike. Motown Mike hates Motown Mike name, but it's my fucking podcast, and I'm going to name him Motown Mike on my podcast. It's not his real nickname, but it is going to be his nickname for this goddamn podcast. But yes, he would bury a body for me. I have a couple other people, some uncles in my life that would do the same thing. Bury it, ask later, never talk about it again. Could all have that person in your life, and you should be that person for somebody else. Not many people, just one or two. Somebody that you know would do the same for you. I know that sounds like some gangster shit, but loyalty and love mean a lot to me. So fuck you if you don't like it. What is most important to me? Number three, relationships. I mean, that's just it. All right, having good relationships with the people that I love, valuing those relationships, cultivating those relationships. When this life is all said and done, we don't take money with us. Nobody cries for their wallet on their deathbed. They talk about their people in their life. So that's what's most important to me. All the other shit doesn't fucking matter. It's all about relationships and times with people and, experiences with those people. Number four, what is an everyday struggle that I have? My everyday normal struggle is with cured meats and cheeses, specifically and generally eating habits. I'm a little chubby dude. I've been little and chubby my whole goddamn life. I've struggled with weight problems and struggled with, appetite issues. I mean, I have an insatiable appetite. I can eat day and night and just never stop. It's like an empty fucking stomach and, just it just keeps coming in any event. But I fucking love me some Italian meats and I live in a goddamn town where there's a fucking hoagie shop everywhere. I live close to fucking Mancuso's, which God, I fucking love that place. God, I love pepperoni and prosciutto. 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 It's prosciutto, guys. I love that shit. But it's a struggle. It's a struggle. You know, fuck. It's a goddamn struggle. I'm trying, man. I'm trying, but fuck, if I stop trying, I will be 400 pounds tomorrow. Number five, what's the best advice I ever got? Some of the best advice I ever got was actually from my high school baseball coach, Coach K. Shout out. Coach used to give me a bunch of nuggets. The one thing that used to annoy me about my dad and my grandfather is they would really never ever offer advice. They would always have reasons to not do things, but like the naysayer shit and 5 reasons, 10 reasons not to do something, but never really give you a direction that you should go. Anyway, but coach was that person for me when I got to high school. The first thing he used to tell me when I used to ask him how do I look, he would say, "Step on the scale, Dave. The scale don't lie." And that's just a great nugget because right, the scale don't lie. Stop fucking lying to yourself. Look in the goddamn mirror. If you're a fat ass, you're a goddamn fat ass. It ain't nobody's fault but your own. Own it. And that could be said for a fucking million things in your life. But step in the scale, look in the goddamn mirror. Stop fucking trying to look in the funhouse mirror. Be real. Look at it the right way. The other two things he told me, one, when my father died, he came to the funeral. And the one thing he really just had to say was just don't forget about your mother, right? I have a family at home that I could get lost into and help me with the grief. But my mom, she just lost the only person she lived with. She's her only real support. So don't forget about her. A great piece of advice that I give to people. And I didn't. She became my second wife for a while, which is okay. She has since moved on and is doing well. I love my mom, but that's great advice. The other piece of advice a coach said to me is when I was having my first son, when I was having Jacob, he said, Dave, you're never going to feel ready, but everything's just going to be fine. Just do your best. As long as you're trying your best, everything will be fine. And that goes not for just kids, but for everything in life, right? There's never a perfect time. Nothing's ever perfect in your life. If you want to do something, do it. What are you waiting for? Just try your best. Give it your best shot. Don't fucking half-ass it and then be sad that you failed, right? Give it all that you got, and everything's going to be okay. Everything will work out. Next question. What is the worst advice that I ever got? Worst advice. I don't think of it like that. The way I think about it is I'll take all the advice that you want to give me. I'll listen to anybody that wants to talk to me about what they think I should do. Then it's my job to sort that shit out and make the best decision for myself. Like I said a little bit earlier, my dad, my grandfather too, never really gave advice. I never got much advice as a kid. I sort of worked it out on my own, blindly. And I made a lot of mistakes because they were blind mistakes. I didn't have a lot of information. I didn't know what to do. There was nobody in my family that ever went away to college or to law school, for God's sake, or worked in a high intensity professional environment. So I had to figure it out all on my own. And I'm okay with that. I mean, I'm not complaining, but the way I look at it is I'll take all the opinions that you want to give me and I'm going to sort through that shit and make the best decision for me. I'm not going to shuck that my responsibility to make those decisions. I'd rather have the information. So no advice is bad advice. It's only bad advice if you make a poor decision. Most poor decisions are made because you lack the information. So seeking as much information as you can get is never a bad thing. Listen to everybody. That doesn't mean you have to treat them all equally, right? That each opinion is not always equal, but fuck, you never know. You never know who might be right. You don't have to be the smartest guy in the world or the richest person in the world to have a, a great opinion on something or to be right because even dumb people and idiots are right once in a while. So anyway, the point is take all the advice you can get. If I had one wish, what would I wish for? It's hard. I mean, whatever. $1 billion so I can fucking fix all my problems and everybody I know's problems, I guess, right? Something like that. Eternal life. I don't know that I would want eternal life. I guess if I can wish something, something practical that could help humankind would be for, politicians and governments to make decisions based on only what's right or, um, that's the only consideration that they had. You're not always going to get everything right, but if you're doing it for the right reasons, um, most of the time it'll be right. And at least you know that people are pushing in the right direction. What's wrong in this world is just so much greed, in every fashion, intellectual greed, financial greed, political greed, power greed, it all stems down to power, I guess. Wouldn't it be an amazing world if our leaders and the people that are making those decisions made the decisions with only one thing in mind? What is the best thing to do? What is right? All this other shit will go away. Have some fucking people with integrity leading the way. All right, that's enough of my political message because this is not going to get political. I really don't want it, but because of all of that. Number 8, what other career, would I have liked to do, or what do I think that I would have done? Some realistic career. I always thought that I would be fucking a great demo man. I'm a goddamn bull in a china shop by nature. Fucking have a scuff mark on my shoe by the fucking day 2 of having it. So I kind of like to get my hands. I do like to get my hands dirty and smash shit. That does seem like a fun job once in a while. Maybe like the guy that fucking does the explosives. That would be fucking amazing. Just blow shit up for fucking living. That'd be fucking awesome. Yeah. So like demolition, right? Like first the guy like early in my career with the fucking sledgehammer, and then like later in my career, I would have been the dude like standing back just detonating buildings. Awesome. I guess I probably would have needed a degree for that. I don't know. Who knows? Number 9. How would I like to be remembered? I want to be remembered as just somebody that made efforts to be as good as I could be for the most part, right? I just want people, I want my kids to know that I love them and I tried to be a great dad. My wife to know that I loved her and tried to be a great husband. My friends to know that I love them and tried to be a great friend, and my mother to know that I love her and tried to be the best son I could be. I don't always succeed at that, right? But I'm trying. I'm doing the best I can, and I'm trying to get better every day. And hopefully I'll continue to do that. I don't want to get cynical and and be that mean little old man because I have a tendency to get angry as it is. I, so I I need to see a light at the end of the tunnel. So that's that. Which sort of brings me to a thing that fucking annoys me. It's a little bit of a one-off here, but I like I love my dad, right? When we talked about he had flaws. I can't fucking stand when somebody dies and then all of a sudden that person becomes a fucking saint. Dude, he wasn't a saint. She wasn't a saint. Everybody's got flaws. Remember them for who they are. When I die, please, for fucking love of God, make fun of me. Talk about the shit that annoyed you about me. I can be fucking annoying. I'm unreasonable sometimes. My dad was a fucking lazy motherfucker, but I love him. It doesn't make me love him. them any less. My grandmother, who I could not have adored more, she could be a vindictive bitch. She got in the middle of her kids' arguments and took sides. You know what? I still miss her, and she was still an amazing human being most of the time. Everybody's flawed. Please stop making dead people fucking saints. For the love of God, stop fucking doing that. Okay, sorry. I'm off my uh I'm off my soapbox again. If I had a whole day to myself, what would I do? I don't know. I've had whole days to myself. I guess if I could do anything for a day, I'd throw a fucking banger, like a big ass party where everybody could come to, like in Ibiza, and just fucking do it up for the weekend. Do it up for that day, whatever. I guess you guys would have to figure out how to get the fuck back. But I love a party. I love a good time. I love forgetting half of it the next day and dancing and fucking just letting it all hang out. So that's what I would do. I wouldn't want to do it all by myself. I like people around me. How about next one? If I make it to heaven, if there is a heaven, and I get to the pearly gates, what would I like God to say to me? Welcome? I don't, you don't have to say anything else. Just let me in the fucking, let me in the gates, buddy. Let me in the gates. You know, well, whatever you need me to say to get in, I'm cool. You don't have to say anything. You can call me a motherfucker as long as I'm allowed in. That's it. Thank you, sir. Can I come in? I'll take the efficiency. Number 12. What is my most embarrassing moment? Well, I've had a lot of embarrassing moments. The earliest one I can think of, really where I embarrassed myself, is I was on a travel team in high school. I was maybe 15 years old, and I was sitting a bench at the time, and I certainly deserved to be sitting a bench. I was playing awful, and I was pissed off about it. But there was a kid sitting next to me where I was just trying to make a joke about it. And I was writing like notes on like a piece of paper. I was keeping a scorebook and writing notes on a piece of paper, like, fuck the coach and he sucks and he's an asshole and all that shit. And I thought I threw them away, but apparently I left one of them in the back of the book. And the coaches found the fucking piece of paper. I think it was like, coach so and so is an asshole. The coaches have a big meeting. They're gonna stop playing, and if they don't find out who did it, you know, everybody's gonna get thrown off the team. So I had to fucking tell everybody that I did it, and everybody thought that I was really doing. I did it on purpose, tried to hurt his feelings. But I really didn't. I was really just kind of fucking around. Um, you know, I never went back to the team after that. So that was pretty goddamn embarrassing. Another embarrassing moment around the same time, I think, is it was like New Year's Day. I was maybe 14 or 15, hanging out with Steve. Shout out to Steve. I know you'll probably listen, Junior. Uh, we were with these two girls, and I was like walking and being cool and trying to be like, pound my chest because we were walking with these two girls, and we were gonna go kiss in the alleyway. And I tripped over a curb and I fell fucking flat on my face in front of everybody. And I get up and there's like pebbles in my fucking forehead. And yeah, everybody was laughing at me. That was pretty embarrassing. Steve still tells that story every once in a while. I did kiss the girl. I still got to kiss the girl. And then I went and kissed another girl that day. It's a very good day for Angry Dave. But it did start out pretty embarrassing. The old Pebblehead. Uh, Next question. What is my favorite curse word? Favorite curse word by far is fuck because I use it all the time and it can be used in such a variety of ways. It is the greatest curse word to ever exist. Hands down. And if you disagree, you would be wrong. Thank you. Next question. What is the What is the best creative insult that you can think of? Uh, right now would be cum, gu- cum gutter slut puppy is the one that I just came up with a few moments ago. I did cheat a little bit, but creative insults are some of my favorite. One of my favorite ones that my uncle John would always say is "jit bag," bag of jit. Uh, you know, I do like "fucktard" as well. Is one of my good ones that I love. "Fucktard," but "cum gutter slut puppy" is my favorite one as of this moment. Next question, question 15. Tell us about a time that you shit yourself. Now, I think you people, good people on this podcast, might think, is this fucking dude crazy? I never shit myself. And I know that you're fucking lying because everybody at one point or another has likely shit themselves. The only time that I really, truly, honestly shit myself, I was coming back from northeastern Pennsylvania from a, long day in court up there. And I was caught in traffic and driving back home on the Schuylkill Expressway. And anybody who's familiar with the Schuylkill Expressway knows that there's not many places to get off of the Schuylkill Expressway to go hide and shit, especially if you're coming back into the city. And I was probably on there for like I was caught behind an accident well over an hour and a half, 2 hours, and I had nowhere to go. And I'm just sitting in traffic, and my stomach is killing me, hurting. I feel like it's going to explode. Finally, I just let it go. I just let it go. And it just kept coming out. And it, it just kept coming out and it um, got everywhere. I mean, the pants did not survive. I probably shit about a pound. And when I got out of the car, actually, when I got home, I mean, like the pants were like fucking it was sagging and there was like shit running down my fucking legs. And, I live in South Philly, so I had to walk at least like 60 feet, like with my fucking legs wide open, like wide, like a cowboy. The house, and I guess ran into the shower. Oh, God, it was disgusting. I actually don't think anybody was home, and I don't think anybody actually knew that. First time anybody's really hearing this story is me on this fucking podcast. Thank God for leather seats, though. Shout out to leather seats. Uh, I had to go back out with some Windex and some Clorox wipes, wipe down my leather seat in my car, clean that out. You know what the most embarrassing thing about this story that I probably shouldn't tell, but I'm going to tell anyway, is that, once I was done shitting, like the pound of shit that I shit, I had to sit in it for like 45 fucking minutes or so, and it was really not that uncomfortable. It was quite warm. It was like having seat warmers, you know. I don't know. I don't know what that says about me, but it says something. Oh, I'm a fucking idiot. Um, how about a time that I peed myself? Number 16. Well, there's too many fucking stories to tell about that. Probably the funniest time I ever peed myself was had a apartment on 17th and Spruce. I was with my brother-in-law in the middle of the day on a Saturday or Sunday, and we had been drinking for quite some time, and I forgot my keys, and Laura wasn't home. So we were standing outside the apartment building on Spruce Street, and I had to pee. I had to pee, and I was waiting, and eventually I couldn't wait anymore, so I just stood in the corner and I fucking peed myself, and it was coming out the bottom of my shorts, and it was like everywhere. I just peed. Just fucking, I peed in the middle of 17th Spruce on Spruce Street in front of my brother-in-law. He was uh he was pretty surprised that I just peed. He's like, "Why didn't you pull your penis out?" I said, "Well, there's fucking people around. What am I gonna do? I don't want to get a indecent exposure charge. I just fucking pissed myself. I don't know what are you gonna do?" That's a pee story. Number 17. What's the most embarrassing place you ever farted? On a judo mat, by far, in front of like fucking 20 people. I fucking ripped one bad. Uh, Everybody laughed. It was so bad that like I actually got blamed for a fart like 2 weeks later. This fucking German kid fucking blew a fucking a French horn on the judo mat. He didn't fucking own it, motherfucker. The instructor looked at me. He's like, "Dave, is that you again? Would you cut it out?" I'm like, "Motherfucker, it's not me. I own my farts. I'm no fucking silent but deadly dude. I'll fucking own that shit. You know what I mean? But don't fucking blame me, German dude. You fucking douche." All right. I mean, he's actually a nice guy. But he douched out that day. Number 18. Have you ever walked in on your parents having sex? Actually, that answer is no. I had never walked in on my parents having sex, but me and my Uncle John, Uncle John used to, my mom's brother, but he lived with us for at least half of my childhood. They used to go upstairs and we would hear them having sex. Probably not as bad as walking in, but multiple times of hearing him having sex. This is the way it would go. They would go into the bedroom. They would close the door. A few minutes later, you would hear. That was the bed squeaking. They had a really old, uh, like a bed frame. And that would go on for maybe 3 minutes. My dad was no Johnny Holmes, and then you would hear. That was my mom, and then you would hear. That was my dad, and then you would hear a thump of my dad turning back over. So I'm pretty sure that they always had missionary, and he just flopped over to his side of the bed after they were done. So yeah, shout out to mom and dad for fucking loud sex in the middle of the day. 3 minute man, you fucker. Number 19. Have I ever gotten caught having sex? No, I have not. I'm good at it. Thank you. Although, when my parents were moving out of one of their houses when I was like 21 or 22 years old, they did find gouge marks in the near where the bed was, and my dad brought me up there and he says, "Huh, you weren't having sex in here, huh, buddy?" And I said, "Sorry, Dad, I'll fix it." And that was that conversation. So I never actually got caught having sex. I did get caught afterwards, years later. Number 20. What is my favorite type of porn? Currently, I like the group sex version of porn. Um, multiple people, multiple partners. I don't know. I go through fucking stages. If that makes you uncomfortable, go fuck yourself. Thank you. That's all I'll do. Talk about that. Number 21. If you had the choice of being naked in public for 8 hours or having your thoughts pop up in a thought bubble above your head for 2 weeks, what would you choose? For me, I would take the indecent exposure charge and be in public for 8 hours naked. it's going to be far less problems for me just having the indecent exposure charge than if I had to reveal all my thoughts all the time. Yeah, you know, I can't control what I think all the time, but I can control that getting it out of my mouth and keeping it inside, internalized. You don't want to know what's in here. You can handle truth, as a great man once said. Number 22. Have you ever taken a sexy picture of yourself? That answer is yes. I'm moving on. Number 23. Have you ever stolen anything? Yes, I have stolen. I used to steal Slim Jims out of Wawa's eh, as a young man. It was weird. I stole bat gloves out of Toys R Us as a kid. I don't know. And many other things. I had a fucking Slim Jim theft problem for a little bit. It was weird. Statute of limitations are over. Forgive me. Have I ever been arrested? Number 24. Yes, I was arrested when I was about 15 years old, coming out of a convenience store. The police officers thought we were the kids hanging on the corner. We were not those kids. They arrested us anyway without any goddamn proof. I had to go to court for that shit. Thank God my dad had a friend that was a cop. Shout out to Gino. Gino talked to the arresting officer. The arresting officer made us apologize to her, and the judge dismissed the charges. I apologized to her. I said, Officer Clark, I'm sorry I was out past curfew. I'm sorry I was hanging on the corner. It won't happen again. And then my three other friends right behind me said exactly the same thing that I said. We were walking out of the courtroom, and as I'm walking in the back of the courtroom, there were other police officers in the back of the courtroom that were fucking mocking us, making fun of us. Oh, Officer Clark, I'm sorry. So I'm walking in front of my dad. This dude, these cops say something, and I say, go fuck yourselves, dickheads. I was 15. My dad flipped the fuck out at me, slapped me in the back of the head, and then told him what happened. He's like, well, why don't you point the cops out for me? Point them out to me. I'll go talk to them. No, Dad. No, Dad. I don't want you to get arrested. It was handled. We're fine. And we moved on. And that was my arrested story. Although, when I was arrested, I was in a little holding cell that they had. They made us take our shoes off. I was doing the moonwalk, dancing, and acting like a fucking tough guy. And then I peeked out. They told me that I was ready to go home, and it was my mom there. And I was very excited to see my mother because it wasn't my father, right? Because my father was going to be fucking very upset. I was scared. I was still scared, still afraid of my dad at the time. And I get to my mother, and she scolded me so bad that she even scared the bum that was laying there in the police area. The fucking yeah, he was like laying in the like general area there. Fucking, she scared the fucking bum. He woke up and left. My mother was so fucking fiery angry. So one time she actually scared me in my life. She's a little lady. It's hard to get scared from her. She scared me that night. All right, that's my arrest story. Number 25. If I had to switch genders to be a woman for a day, what would I do? That's easy. I would play with myself. I would play with my boobies and my vagina, and I would have a good old time with my naked body. I'm a fucking pervert, and I'm sorry. Forgive me, but that's the truth. I would play with myself. I'm going to move on now. Number 26. If I ran out of toilet paper in a public restroom, what would I do? Again, another simple solution. You take your underwear and you wipe yourself with that, and you throw your underwear out, and you go about your day with a clean ass and no underwear. this has happened to me before, um, in remote areas of Pennsylvania, and I just went, balls out a little bit. I mean, I had fucking pants on, but I went a little commando. If you know what I'm saying? And that's what you do. And that's my advice to you. If you have nothing else to use, you use your underwear and you make do. Just hope you don't get a boner. I just made myself laugh. That's hysterical. All right, number 27. If you had a choice, this is for men only. If you had a choice between having a 12-inch penis, but you had to be 200 pounds overweight, or you had a very small penis, but you were always ripped, what would you choose? So, small dick, ripped abs, ripped body, or 12-inch hammer, but 200 pounds overweight. Which would you choose? I thought long and hard about this, no pun intended. I would choose the rock hard body, absolutely. Then I could always eat my Italian meats. And, I could figure out other ways to please women, I guess, or my wife. But, if I was single, I would much rather have the ripped body. Maybe I can get a penile implant later. But the ripped body and the Italian meats, um, as much. I would love that. Yes. Okay. Next question. Number 28. What do I think the first person who milked the cow, what were they doing? What was the first person who milked the cow? What were they actually doing? I mean, come on, guys. This is a clear, the person's a fucking creepo, and he probably hung out with the goats a lot. I mean, he was trying to, get some action. He was fucking probably trying to lick the cow tit. I mean, who goes up to a fucking cow tit and starts stroking it? And like, oh, I think I'm going to get some healthy milk out of it. No, you're a goddamn weirdo that fucks goats. So he was probably a goat fucker that moved on to cows and then he became, like the town hero because he found out that you could, get nutritious milk from this goddamn cow he was fucking. True story, and it had to be a dude. You know it was a dude, right? Because only dudes are that perverted. I mean, that's just it. Number 29, if you were arrested and nobody knew about it, knew why, what would your family and friends think of why that you were arrested and they didn't know? I mean, this is just the easiest question for me. Hands down, 100%, they would think I got into a fight and got arrested. That's it. Nothing else. They wouldn't think I was drunk. 100% they would think I got drunk. I mean, that I got in a fight and got arrested and was in jail for aggravated assault or, some kind of assault charge. Number 30, would I be embarrassed if somebody saw my browser history? Um, I don't get embarrassed easy. There's probably a little bit of embarrassing things on there if it were, say, Mother Teresa. Number 31, do I have any unreasonable fears? No, man, I don't. Not really. I'm not afraid of like small people or snakes or anything. I'm kind of an adventurous kind of a person. I really would probably try mostly anything as long as I'm not gonna die once. Number 32. Did you ever think that something was true that you learned turned out to be ridiculous? Yeah. So when I was about 6 or 7 years old in South Philly, maybe I was a little bit older than that, 8 or 9 years old, maybe when we first started talking about sex in the neighborhood. Yes, we talked about sex pretty young. I kissed the first girl I ever kissed was I was 8 years old. In any event, that's not the point of the story. Point of the story is that my best friend Matt at the time told me that I um told me that Asian vaginas the other way were sideways, slanted sideways, and yeah, I believed that for a few years there. Sorry, sorry to all my Asian friends for knowing that, but I probably thought that was true until I was about 13 years old or 14 years old or some shit like that. I mean, like literally, it was way fucking too long. Some racist shit. Sorry about that. All right, so I answered all the questions that I had. I gave you a little bit of my background story, but I kind of don't want to end this goddamn podcast on a Asian lady trope. I'm gonna fucking be censored before I even finish my first goddamn podcast. All right. Well, that's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you come back. Um, moving forward, it's going to be me asking people questions, maybe interjecting a little bit. But I want to try to get to know some people, ask them ridiculous questions, many of which are on here. If you guys have any suggestions for the podcast, I'm happy to hear it. You can reach out to me at angrydavespodcast at gmail.com, angrydavespodcast at gmail.com. Uh, this podcast is going to be in all the major places to get it. I'm going to try to start a website. I'll have information on my, social media pages. So reach out to me if you have any ideas. Let me know what you think. Happy to hear from you. Until then, I'm out. Peace.